Houston, Texas, the dawn of the new millennium. This was the undisputed capital of energy, and Enron was its golden god. Those twin glass towers gleaming in the Texas sun weren't just corporate headquarters. They were a monument to the ultimate American delusion. Inside, they proudly called themselves the smartest guys in the room. The company claimed revenues exceeding $100 billion, its stock defying gravity, soaring into the stratosphere. Fortune magazine named them America's most innovative company for 6 consecutive years. But the world didn't realize that Enron's innovation had nothing to do with generating power. Their true product was the most addictive drug on Wall Street: pure, unadulterated hubris. At the summit sat 2 men, Ken Lay, the grandfatherly emperor who shook the hands, and Jeff Skilling, the ruthless visionary who sharpened the knives. Skilling arrived with a radical philosophy: assets are liabilities. He didn't believe in owning power plants or pipelines, the dirty, physical reality of the business. He believed in financial alchemy. They transformed energy trading into an unregulated global casino. Soon, they were trading everything, whether futures, internet bandwidth, empty promises. They weren't selling commodities anymore. They were selling thin air, and the market was buying every cubic inch of it. But a machine this massive requires constant fuel, and Enron's fuel was an ever-rising stock price. Wall Street is a beast that demands to be fed bigger miracles every quarter. When reality couldn't meet those impossible expectations, Enron's executives found a simpler solution. They lied. They began to bend reality, recording future hypothetical profits as cold hard cash today. They adopted mark-to-market accounting, essentially allowing them to dictate their own profits based on fantasy projections. From the outside, Enron was a shining star. From the inside, it was a ticking time bomb strapped to a lie. And the countdown had already begun. How does a company hemorrhaging billions of dollars appear wildly profitable? That was Enron's true masterpiece of innovation. The architect of this illusion was Chief Financial Officer Andy Fastow, the sorcerer's apprentice. Fastow created a labyrinth of thousands of special-purpose entities, ghost firms with names like Raptor and Choco. The sole purpose of this complex web was to act as a financial dumping ground. Enron's massive debts and failed projects were swept under these rugs, hidden from investors' eyes. It wasn't accounting genius. It was sophisticated corporate larceny dressed up in a suit. Maintaining a lie of this magnitude required more than just fake numbers. It required terror. Enron's culture was a Darwinian nightmare, fueled by a brutal rank and yank performance review system. Every year, the bottom 15% of the workforce was summarily executed, fired, and escorted out. It created a gladiator arena where colleagues would tear each other's throats out to survive. Nobody dared to ask questions. To hit their impossible targets and secure their bonuses, traders signed deals that were suicidal for the company in the long run. Greed wasn't just encouraged, it was a survival instinct. By mid-2001, the weight of the fabrication was cracking the foundation. The cash flow had dried up, and the whispers were turning into shouts. Inside that glass tower in Houston, one of history's greatest cover-ups began in earnest. The accounting firm Arthur Andersen, Enron's supposed watchdog, began liquidating evidence. They initiated a massive document destruction campaign. Industrial shredders ran day and night, turning years of systemic corruption into confetti. They were burning the truth, but they couldn't stop the smoke from rising. Enron's darkness wasn't just metaphorical. Sometimes, they literally turned out the lights. The rolling blackouts that crippled California in 2000 and 2001 were no accident of infrastructure. They were a mugging. Enron traders deliberately congested transmission lines and took power plants offline to create artificial scarcity, driving electricity prices up by huge percentages. Hospitals went to generators, traffic lights went dark, and grandmothers got trapped in elevators. Back in Houston, Traders sat in air-conditioned offices, watching the chaos on maps and laughing, shouting, "Burn, baby, burn." It had evolved beyond white-collar crime into social terrorism. Amidst this carnival of moral decay, one person finally listened to their conscience. Sharon Watkins, an Enron vice president, saw the Matrix for what it was. In the summer of 2001, she penned an anonymous, fateful letter to CEO Ken Lay. "I am incredibly nervous that we will implode in a wave of accounting scandals," she warned. It was the first distress flare fired from the deck of the Titanic. Watkins was the only lookout who saw the iceberg, but up on the bridge, the captains were too drunk on their own power to listen. August 2001, the bombshell dropped. The visionary CEO, Jeff Skilling, the architect of the entire house of cards, suddenly resigned after only 6 months at the helm. He cited personal reasons, but on Wall Street, everyone knew what that meant. The ship was taking on water, and the smartest rat was the first one off. Skilling's departure sent a shockwave of panic through the markets. Investors started asking the lethal question: if everything is so wonderful, why is the captain fleeing in a lifeboat? That day, the first irreparable crack appeared in Enron's invincible armor. By autumn, the center could not hold. The deception unraveled with breathtaking speed. The hidden debts were exposed, billions in losses were announced, and the illusion shattered. The stock, once trading at a lofty $90, went into free fall, plummeting toward pennies. Credit rating agencies downgraded their status to junk. On December 2nd, 2001, the inevitable finally happened. Enron filed for what was then the largest bankruptcy in American history. The massive glass castle had collapsed under the weight of its own bullshit. Billions of dollars in market value evaporated into the humid Houston air in a matter of weeks. But the true victims of this tragedy weren't the smart guys in the penthouse. The victims were the thousands of ordinary employees who had pledged their loyalty to the company. While executives cashed out millions in stock options before the crash, regular employees were locked into having their 401k retirement funds heavily invested in Enron shares. When the stock hit zero, so did their children's college funds and their retirement dreams. They were handed cardboard boxes and escorted out of the glass tower. That procession of people walking out into the rain, holding the remnants of their careers, remains the defining image of corporate betrayal. The party was over, and the bill had come due. The legal fallout dragged on for years. Andy Fastow turned state's evidence, snitching on his bosses to save his own skin. Jeff Skilling was sentenced to 24 years in federal prison. Ken Lay was convicted, but died of a heart attack before he could see the inside of a cell. The Enron scandal wasn't just the death of a company. It was the end of an era of innocence. On that day, blind trust in men in expensive suits died on the dark streets of Houston. The lights eventually came back on, but the city and the system would never shine quite the same way again.